right, let's get it started in here. Nerd.
Blah, 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 blah. All of that chit-chat's gonna get you hurt.
I'll bring you in warm. Or I can bring you in cold.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Toss a coin to your witcher, a friend of humanity.
Thank you.
But speaking of movies, did a movie finally get to theaters that Jay has been waiting for a year?
Yes, it
I
did.
think I've heard of one.
I see, right? Bill and Ted, excellent. What is it? Bill and Ted Face the Music finally came out.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one. That's the one I cared about. And I loved. I thought it was hilarious. I loved it.
John, you have a tendency to make these weird jokes, and I don't understand them.
Sid does. She's been laughing. That's why she's my new comedy writer.
I'll just laugh at any joke and then you'll think it's funny.
And then we'll get dumped by Netflix.
Yeah.
Well,
They're like,
obviously,
none of this is funny.
And I'm like, no. We tested it with the Canadian.
She laughs at everything. It's fine.
they won't even read it. They'll just be like, "Oh, nice."
Oh, nice. The Canadian agreed?
Did you hear how many Emmys they won? We'll take it.
Yeah.
We'll be like, not only that, Jim Rash recognized her name. What does that tell you?
Brilliant.
First name basis with Jim Rash.
Yeah. And they're just, who's Jim Rash?
Oh, sorry. Academy Award winner Jim Rash. Oh,
please.
okay.
So I'm kind of disappointed neither of you did the secret symbol back to me from the movie. So I kind of feel like,
Shows how
can
much
we
I
even
love the
talk about
movie.
this with spoilers if neither of you were part of the group, you know?
Yeah. I kind of forgot what it was.
Yeah, I just like saying secret.
You have to say Tenet and clasp your hands like this.
Yeah, good. Got it.
Really?
Okay.
That's a thing?
But you have to like roll it into the conversation. They'll be
Myself.
like, you must have a lot of tendencies to act like this. I'm your next tenant.
I'll
They'd
throw
say
it
stuff
in
like
at
that.
some point during this.
Okay,
When you
sounds
least
good.
expect it. Yeah.
When I least expect it.
Oh yeah.
What do you think of Tenet?
There's so many things.
So we broke this down a little bit, actually. Let's make this a little bit easier. So we broke it out into kind of categories. So we'll get your overall rating of Tenet. And for our listeners at home, this is not going to be a spoiler-free review. There's going to be plenty of spoilage.
Yeah, it's been a while. If you haven't seen it by now.
Right. Then you're probably social
Not gonna
distancing
really see
still
it.
and turn off the cast. But we're going to talk about the cinematography of the movie, the plot, and how was the plot executed? How was it told? How was the exposition? Was it done well?
Wait, there was a plot?
Yeah.
Oh, let me go back to my notes then.
And we're going to talk about the characters. We'll talk about their arcs, and we'll talk about the action sequences, and then anything else you want to throw in. But let's start with cinematography.
Ooh. Okay. So that's actually something that I'm very happy with is the cinematography. I mean, all of Christopher Nolan's movies, oh my God, like they're all so beautiful. I don't think he ever really misses it in the cinematography section. Because you kind of, in his movies, you kind of get put into this world. Like there's always like this dark kind of bluey tint to everything. And you're then immersed in this like Christopher Nolan universe and you're just a part of it. And I love the cinematography. I thought they had like cool shots. I don't know why, I really like the shot of, and I don't know if you'll remember or not, but they're over like top of the boat and they're showing like the water like kind of being inverted. I love that shot for some reason. It really, I don't know how like they did some of these things and how this isn't really cinematography, but like the building blowing up and then like getting put back together, like all those little things that they're pretty simple shots. Like they're not set up in a crazy way, but it really does it leaves room for you to kind of just focus on the story while just making it look beautiful. I think they didn't like do like overly too much with the cinematography, but it was like really nice how they kind of let you enjoy like the rest of what's happening with it, if that makes sense.
100% I would say that building blowing up is part of the cinematography. It's so much part of the visual appeal. Like you're in this dusty kind of dirty place and the way that blows up is so satisfying. Like it rebuilds itself and then blows up again. You're like, oh, it just is. There's something about it. I would totally agree with that. And it's interesting they had so many set pieces. You know, you start off in I can't remember where the opera house is, but they're somewhere in, I think, Europe. And then he's in kind of like an Iceland boat. You know, he's in a boat, and that's a completely different part. And then they're in, I think, Rome when he's talking to the Russian guy. There's just a lot of set pieces, and they don't even spend much time in some of them. If that makes sense.
They seem to be around the world like a lot.
A lot, yeah.
Which is a critique later that I think I was going to bring up, but
in terms of visually, it's really pretty to like have so many different themes in a movie. Lots of different flavors of ice cream. That's what we'll call it.
And they kind of they were good at with the cinematography to show you where you were without like having to really say it all the time. Even though it was moving around a ton, like you kind of you knew where you were at least, and they set it up like really nice. And those like classic Christopher Nolan set up in a beautiful area where they're just kind of walking and talking about whatever craziness is going on. That seems to happen in every one of his films, that they're just walking down like some really long like street or something. That's just so beautiful. But yeah, I think the cinematography is one of the best parts of the film.
And were you able to watch it on IMAX? In a standard theater?
I did like what did we do? We were in like the VIP theater. I don't think it was IMAX. I think it was, oh goodness. Why can't I remember now?
Big but not huge. We'll call it that.
Regular screen, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Johnny, what do you think of the cinematography?
I really, really liked there was one where they were hanging out on a cliff, kind of, and then it did a panoramic shot, and then they were just on top of like a balcony, it looked like, but then they pulled out, and then you could see like they were over a cliff, and it was really pretty. And I thought that was well done. But I mean, you knew going in that's no matter what, Nolan's going to give you pretty shots.
Okay, next we're going to talk about the plot. So do you like not how it was told, but the plot itself? Okay. Like, do you like the story that they were trying to tell? Not necessarily how it was told.
Right. Okay, that's actually really good that you split those two up. Yeah. Okay, the plot itself, I thought it was a really cool idea. And like, okay, I have to separate it in my mind of the way it was told and the actual just plot. Okay, plot itself, yeah, I did enjoy that. I thought the whole idea of like inversion, because I've never really thought about that before. Like that just has never crossed my mind. You think about time travel a lot and that's told a lot, but the whole inversion thing, that was really interesting how that worked, which I really enjoyed because I love to try to figure those things out, like just how it's told and everything. I think it was a little too like James D kind of like, it was like the evil villain and you gotta like stop him and what he's trying to do, which isn't really Christopher Nolan like in a sense. He doesn't normally have like an evil villain that's trying to do something. So like overall plot wise, I liked the inversion part. I liked what he was doing with that, but I didn't really like how he kind of went on this like, yeah, there's a villain and we got to stop him, because that's totally just not him, and I don't really care for that stuff as much.
Right. 100%. It felt like I'm gonna say 100% every time I agree with you. 100%.
100.
But it's like I actually thought he should have sold it as just a James Bond film. He shouldn't have, in the trailers, he shouldn't have mentioned inversion, because everyone would have been like, why is Christopher Nolan doing a James Bond film? And then as you watch it, you'd be like, oh, there's a cool aspect to it. This is really interesting. But because they oversold the inversion, and then it felt a lot more like a James Bond film, it kind of, expectations didn't meet reality for me personally. Like I actually really like some of the James Bond flicks, so it was kind of funny to see like a more gritty version, or like I don't know, the Russian was 100% though a Bond villain, just wants to see the world burn, like not even in a Joker way. He just wants, he's gonna shoot missiles from the moon or whatever. It's almost a little cartoony. You're like, okay, I don't know. So I totally agree on that. I think they should have doubled down on that in the trailers, and then it would have been a lot less, it would have felt a lot cooler to throw in the inversion, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was confusing. It was like more of, was this Wanted? Like, remember that movie Wanted, where like, oh, you can manipulate stuff. So in my head, I was thinking it was something more like that, and then you get there, and I was just confused. Which I usually am with a Nolan movie, but this was even more confusing.
Yeah, it's a different level.
Let's roll right into that. So what did you think in terms of like exposition, or how the story was told rather than just the plot? How was the plot, explained?
Yeah. I was really frustrated. And I wasn't, because normally when I leave like a film, I don't truly understand like a Christopher Nolan movie or like somebody else's, like David Lynch or something. And I don't understand it. I'm more frustrated with myself as I'm trying to figure it out. But I found myself just frustrated with him. And I was just like, what was that? Like, what are you trying to do here? I think, and obviously he knows what he's doing. He has it all planned out, but I think he just like, he was trying to do too much and it really just got lost somewhere. And I think it's kind of difficult because he kind of set up this audience that wants to be challenged. Like we all want to be challenged by him and all that, but it's hard because we are now frustrated that he's challenged us so hard that we literally just don't understand what he's trying to do. And it's not going to appeal to a lot of people now. And I really just don't like the way it was told. I don't know. I think the plot was just way too confusing. Like there wasn't like I didn't really understand who exactly the bad guy was until like way far in, because I thought maybe it was the girl in where were they? Maybe Mumbai? Oh, I might be wrong. That lady who like knew everything. I was like, okay, maybe she's the bad guy, but it was like, no, he is. Then wait, well, how are they in like a whole other country and now they're back here? I was so confused. Like I didn't know what was going on. So I don't know. Not one of my favorites. I did not like the way it was told because I was just so frustrated the whole time. And I think the whole inversion thing, I could wrap my head around. That part I kind of get. If you map it out, like I can piece it together, but the actual plot I can't even really piece together all that well, which is kind of weird. You'd think it'd be the other way around, but yeah, I don't know. That's how I kind of felt.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm kind of in the reverse. Like I feel like the inversion for me was a little bit hard, just because I'm so used to movies and life where everything is so linear in time travel, and even when you go back in time, you're still traveling linear. You're just going back to your last checkpoint, your last quick save. So it's kind of interesting to like, I'm traveling through time, but I've just turned around and I'm going backwards. And for me, that was like to try and wrap my head, especially like in some of the scenes where they're happening at the same time. That was so hard for me to like figure it out. And the idea that like if it happened, it's always happened almost. Like it was really hard for me to wrap my head around that. But because I've seen so many Bond flicks, I was like, oh, he's the bad. Like the actual plot, I was like, okay, I can follow along. It's kind of funny where I like that we're kind of on the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have a hard time with the dialogue itself? Because that was my biggest pet peeve, is not even understanding the dialogue. I thought I was going deaf for most of it.
Yeah, I didn't know what they were saying half the time. I remember turning to my sister and being like, do you know anything what they just said? Like, do you have any idea what's going on? She's like, no. And that seems to be kind of a more of a theme with Nolan movies, how the soundtrack is just like so much bigger, and soundtrack's amazing, of course, but it totally like kind of blurs out the audio, and you're like, okay, that's great, but like, what is going on?
The pivotal part of the movie.
Yeah. I found it extremely hard to know what they're saying. Even when the audio wasn't like blasting in your ears, like it just them talking, sometimes it was confusing. I was like, wait, where are they going? What's going on? Yeah. That probably contributed to just the overall plot being confusing if you can't understand what they're saying.
Exactly.
We're gonna go to the opera house in a minute.
Yeah, like that scene in the water, it still bugs me the most when they're just on a speedboat and he's like, oh, let me explain why the opera house is important to me, and then nothing. And it's just kind of, I'm at that point I was like, all right, move along, let's go to the fight scenes, because those were the only cool things shot to me, were the fight scenes.
At least they're easy to follow.
Yeah, that's why I was like, oh cool, in close fight scene, I can get that.
Right.
What did you think of the characters? That's the next one we're gonna kind of touch on. Meaning, like, did you like the characters that Nolan presented, or not so much?
Not like, I guess I liked them, sure, but I didn't really care for any of them. Like, if they died, I was like, okay, like, I don't really know them. There was no like backstory at all. I thought they all did an amazing acting job. Like, I would 100% give them that. Character I liked the most was Robert Pattinson's character, probably, because he was the most interesting. Like, I wanted to know more about him, but that's basically it. Like, I didn't really care what happened to them.
Ironically, he's the one who did die at the end.
So.
The one that I didn't want to die, died. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I'd say like the most. Yeah.
I was gonna say his character kind of knew the most what was going on, but didn't really help the story as much.
No, not a ton. I think the most like complex character was I think her name was Kat, the woman. She had like an emotional attachment to everybody, which was nice. But everybody else, I didn't really know why they were doing what they were doing, because they had like no emotional attachment to anybody except for, again, Neil, Robert Pattinson's character. He like at least knew he had a friendship with the protagonist, so that was his emotional connection, but we didn't know that till like the very end. So
the very end.
Yeah.
And it actually kind of broke my heart at the very end when you found it out, because I watched it twice. So on the second viewing, as I'm understanding more like what they're saying back and forth, he's saying like, this is the end of a beautiful friendship for me, and it's the beginning of a beautiful friendship for you. To me, that was just almost like I could almost just weep at it. I was like, that is a really cool concept that Nolan presented at the freaking end. Like, I want another movie about this. Like, I really liked the Neil and James Washington friendship. Like, we get into some stuff. That was I really liked James Washington. Am I saying that right? James, is that his name? The main character? I'm pretty sure it's James Washington. Anyway, I really liked his swagger that he brought to the character. Like, he was cool. He was a cool dude. He'd wear those sweet suits, and I don't know how he fought, everything, his movements. You know how there's a lot to like say about how someone, like, their expressions, their movements, everything. He really brought a cool kind of, I don't know. I liked what he brought to the table. Even though you didn't know anything about him, he's just the protagonist. I still liked his portrayal. But I agree, I didn't have much emotional attachment to him other than I was like, this guy's cool.
Yeah, and you're totally right, because I enjoyed watching him like do what he's doing. But like, I was like, his actual character I don't really care for, but like I like watching him act almost. Yeah, I liked the actors more than I just liked the actual characters they were playing. Just kind of weird.
John David Washington, not James. Sorry, guys. John David Washington. I know.
This is what happens when you give our producer the week off.
I know. Guillermo's off on vacation. He got COVID or something. He's quarantining. It's so annoying.
Worst.
Johnny, what do you think of the characters?
No, yeah, I'm 110% more than you would sit on this. That you're like, for me, Patterson's performance just helped me ease on Batman, the movie he's gonna be in. That's all that really helped me. No, I didn't really care at all about any of the characters in the movie. The actors did a great job. I thought that was about it, and I was like, that was cool, but not really. I wasn't emotionally. I just didn't really. They didn't give you enough to be emotionally attached to them. It's kind of like in if a movie doesn't give you, if you don't care about the character's love interest, then you don't care if they end up together. They're not a good person. None of them were good or bad in the beginning, because I was very confused. I'm like, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Am I supposed to care?
Right.
So, speaking on that, character arcs is kind of, do the characters learn anything? Did they have character arcs even? And what did you think of them?
I thought Kat did. I thought she had a pretty good character arc where she could like, and I'm going to go off base for one sec, but where at the end where she like jumps off the boat and she sees herself jumping off the boat, and that's like the mystery woman. I really enjoyed that because that helped connect things really well. But yeah, I thought she had the best character arc because there actually was one. And she was the easiest timeline to follow, really, because you were just with her the whole time. You weren't jumping around as much. And when I was researching for today, I needed to watch like a couple of videos online to like re-jog my memory and all that. And a few people have mentioned, which I didn't get the first time I watched it, but how Neil is actually Max, who is Kat's son, like that little boy. And
Is that confirmed? I've heard that rumor, and I think it's really cool, but I don't know if it's been confirmed.
yeah,
I
don't know if it's confirmed.
Okay, I dig that rumor a lot. My friend and his mom like sent that to me, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." Shout out to them.
Yeah. If that's true, that's probably my favorite story arc then, because it's he then that's like the start of their beautiful friendship for him. Like when he was a little kid, like that's crazy. And he just kind of he goes into like quantum physics to like teach him about it, and I don't know, so many crazy things with that storyline if it's true. But I'd say them two have the best one. The protagonist doesn't really have a major arc. I can't really
He doesn't
think
learn
of it.
anything. He doesn't change.
Yeah, he's still the same person as the beginning of the film. The bad guy, I can't remember his name. Starts with an S, but he doesn't really have one. He kind of is pretty steady with what he wants out of everything. We know going into it what he wants, and he literally dies wanting the same thing. So I'd say I enjoyed their two story arcs, but every other character didn't really have one. So I guess those are the only two that you can enjoy.
Sator is his name. Sator.
Right.
So, funny enough, I pointed this out to Johnny. That actor is Gilderoy Lockhart in the Harry Potter movies, along with Hercule Poirot in the the Agatha Christie Murder on the Orient Express. Those movies, Death on the Nile. It's the main like detective.
Right.
I didn't even it was hard to recognize him. He did such a good job. He did not look like his normal self.
He's in Dunkirk too.
Yeah.
Which I recognize that, but that's it. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, Harry Potter. Interesting.
He's actually a pretty good director. Look him up. He's got a lot of I didn't realize how many movies he's directed, but he's done quite a bit. One of them, the worst one, being Artemis Fowl, but I'd look up his other stuff too. Johnny, what did you think of character arcs?
There weren't any, so we don't need to talk about it.
Oh, okay. I had one I wanted to just quickly touch on. Sydney brought this up, but it was cool to see Kat's almost a different person, and it's funny she doesn't even recognize herself.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a cool symbolic thing. But she goes from getting shot by him, or that to me is probably the most intense scene of a movie I've seen in a long time. When he takes the gun from her and punches her, vengeful bit, and he just starts kicking her and stuff. I was like, oh my gosh. I was really stressed in the theater the first time I watched that. I was starting to sweat because he's going off. It was a really interesting portrayal of a villain, and it made it really satisfying when he gets thrown off the boat and he's just like a rag doll. I love that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, but it's a cool arc for her to become a stronger woman and kind of to get her revenge. And she was always kind of in his cage and in his grasp, and then she totally broke out of it. It's kind of it's a cool arc because the rest of them really don't have it. Neil kind of does, but you're just catching glimpses of it. You're not really getting more.
Yeah, he still is a side character, so that's all you really can get. But yeah, when he goes off on her and starts basically beating her up, that was it was an interesting point for the audience too, because you're okay, so because at some point you have to think maybe he won't hurt her. Maybe that's the one place where he won't go. But then you see that he can go there, and you're okay, all bets are off now. He's willing to do anything. So that was kind of cool for his character, how you could see he literally has a mission and he does not care who's in his way. Which I guess we kind of needed something like that, even though it was at her expense. But
yeah. Real quick, was there anything? So we're gonna jump into action sequences last, but I wanted to talk about was there anything that was just bad, that you watched the movie and you're like, what? I'll preface this with my bad. There's a scene where she brings him her. Sorry. John David Washington brings Kat the Van Gogh. It's not. Is it Van Gogh? I can't remember. He brings her the piece of artwork, and she's like, "Oh, this is pretty good," or whatever. And she says something. It's not that good. She says something like that, and he's like, What does your heart tell you? That's the line he uses. And for me, that pulled me out of the movie. I was like, that was the dumbest line I've ever heard in a Christopher Nolan movie. What does your heart tell you? It was baffling how bad that line was. Like, I was like, how did that get through? So that's my bad. That one line was really bad to me. Like, there was a guy in our theater who like lost it and thought it was so funny, and I hated it so much. It has no place being there. Yeah. No, it has no business being in a Nolan film.
Yeah. Like, come on, man. Like, yeah, Nolan's smarter than that.
Yeah. What does your heart tell you? What? It didn't make any sense. I don't know. It was really cringy.
Yeah. I totally forgot about that line, but I would agree with that. Hearing it again, yeah. And I didn't really get the painting until now that I've watched like explainer videos. I had no idea what was up with the painting. I really like that whole plot point went over my head, and now I kind of get it. But I remember watching it and being like, "What is with this painting? And why are we trying to get it? Why do people care about it?" And it's like, whatever. It looked nice, but like it wasn't great. And so I'm with you. That the whole painting thing kind of I didn't like, but now that it's been like explained to me, I enjoyed it a little bit more. But I just really didn't like them jumping around from like literally countries to countries, and we don't ever see them like get on a plane. We don't ever like, how are they getting here? Like, what's the time frame of all this? Like, I really just didn't know, and that's just kind of that really bothered me because the whole time I'm trying to figure out what's like. Did this happen over 5 years? Did this happen over like a month? I have no idea. I'd say that was what kind of really bugged me about it.
Yeah, he was in that like at an oil rig. He was in that one place. We don't know how long he was there, waiting for right in the beginning of the movie, waiting to get picked up. It could have been a week. I mean, they don't really. Yeah. He didn't have like food somehow, but you can tell he was there longer than like a day though. It was very their time travel is unrealistic, for sure.
Yeah, kind of threw me out. And how did they get the budget for it? That's what I want to know.
Right? Yeah. Unlimited
I want to travel
cards.
around the world. Yeah.
Yeah, those black Amexes that have no limit. I'm like, come on, man.
Right.
Johnny, did you have any bad? I know you already said dialogue, but I'm just curious if there's anything else.
Yeah, it was made the dialogue to take me away, and there's just a lot of. Yeah, it was the dialogue. I couldn't get past that. After that, I mean, my heart did tell me that there was some good fight scenes, so I appreciate that. But other than that, it was just nothing.
So, what did you guys think of the action, of the fight scenes and everything? Let's talk about that real quick. Let's close with that because I want to end on a high note. So you better think it's good.
No, yeah, the action was good. I mean, they were epic. Like, I don't really know how do you get somebody to fight each other with one in reverse? I don't understand how they did that, and I've been trying to figure it out. And I'll watch a video on it at some point, but I just want to figure it out on my own first. But that was cool when they're fighting in the hallway. I think that's one of my favorite scenes.
And he's like doing a flip, like backwards or whatever, and it would make sense if you were watching the film backwards, but forwards it doesn't. Like,
I know.
Cool.
It's so weird. Yeah, their action was amazing. Again, with the building blowing up and then being put back together, and as at the same time, like, what? That was weird. And just those big action scenes with the blue and the red team. I mean, they did it epic. Like, they really did. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that I've always kind of appreciated about Christopher Nolan, is that he has the resources and the budget to do these big things, and he does it. And he does it well. And it's just kind of like good for him. Like, he bought a plane to fly into a building or to drive into a building. Like, who else can do that? The action was definitely a high point for sure.
It was super satisfying. For me, I really enjoy, like you mentioned, that hallway scene. It makes me wonder how many times they shot and reshot and had to fight coordinate that, and how hard it was. Because it was really cool. And to see it both ways was even cooler. Like, to see that, you pans through once linearly and then it pans through again inverted. So it was kind of cool. I don't know. Yeah. I really like the
favorite
action.
fight scene was in the kitchen, which is like a very small enclosed area. But the thing is, too, that one probably took like 2 weeks to shoot, even though it's like one on one. But like the
Yeah.
choreograph alone was really cool because that one seemed realistic. Like whenever fight scenes are kind of realistic, I mean, they're still amazing people. It's better. I like those more.
And you learn a lot about John David Washington just in that one scene. Like he's not nervous at all. Like he has been through a lot. He's basically seen death at this point. But like not only that, but he's got the skills that like he'd already like sized up all these dudes and was like, "Oh, I'm winning this fight." Like he wasn't even worried. And I really enjoyed that. Like and the setup of it where she's like he always gets what he wants and then he just beats the crap out of his men and walks outside and maybe he doesn't, you know? Like I thought that was so cool.
It gave her hope. She was crying a little bit.
Yeah.
You can see the hope in her eyes when she looks back and sees that he's alive. Gave her a little hope.
Yeah, I really liked how he would fight. I agree with Johnny. That scene was really cool, and even how like he kind of takes the first punch and then dodges the next one, and like he was always in control. It was kind of really well done. The last action scene I kind of wanted to talk about was that opening action scene was really cool, where the terrorists have taken over the opera house and everyone falls asleep. One, that's really visually satisfying to see everyone at once fall asleep, but two, just like I was like right in the movie, like this is intense. Like you hear those gunshots and he's booking it in there, like it right at the beginning. I was set on edge, and I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the visuals of that, and I enjoyed kind of how it went, and that I think the action in this movie is probably in my top 3 for Nolan in terms of his action sequences. I'd say he did better in this than even in some of the Batman movies. Don't at me, Johnny, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, that first scene though, I think the whole time I was like kind of smiling because I was like, this is what we came for. Yeah, this classic Nolan. Yeah, I would agree, and I like how with the soundtrack, even though the soundtrack did kind of mess up the audio or the dialogue, I love so much how the soundtrack, like it sounded like it was going kind of backwards and how it was like inverted itself. And I was like, that's so cool. Because during like the fight sequences when they were inverted, like so was the soundtrack. And I was like, wow, like that, they did an amazing job with that. Kind of just brings it all together then, even though I didn't understand what was happening, I at least enjoyed watching it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. Like, do you recommend this movie? And I'm like, I recommend anything. If it gets you out of the house, if you're able to see it, go see it. You know, who knows? Maybe you do like it. There's a ton of movies that people hate that I love. So I just tell people, hey, just watch it. Who knows?
Well, and what's funny is like the movie gave me a headache, but as I look back on it fondly, because I remember the good parts and I kind of just sweep the bad parts under the rug. So like I would give the movie, like originally I was like, I'll give it 6 out of 10. Right now I'm at like a 7.5. Like I feel a lot better about it, and I look at it fondly. Like there's a lot of really good stuff in it. Nolan's so good at making movies seamless that I can see the cracks in this one for me.
Yeah, I definitely need to see it again. I only saw it once because I was like, okay, you get like one movie outing during this time, and then you might be pushing it with 2. But yeah, I would really like to see it again. I do remember leaving the theater because I saw it with my dad and my sister, and my dad just turned to me. He goes, "All right, who needs a drink?" I was like, yeah. And then we just talked about it for the rest of the night, trying to figure it out. But yeah, like I'm with you. If people have been asking me if they should go see it, and I'm like, yeah, like go see it, of course. Like you might love it. I don't know. And it's not that I don't love it, but it's not my favorite, but it's like maybe you're going to understand it way better than I did. Like maybe you're on some other level, and I think it's definitely worth watching. I think it's still like amazing cinema right there. Like he's done things that we've never done before.
Yeah.
But he just missed the mark on a few things.